Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of the Get in Line to Hate Me podcast. This whole episode is going to be about who we are, why the name, why a podcast, and we're just going to hopefully
lay a scenery for you,
like
the groundwork.
Set some foundation to this. All right, for starters, we are sisters. We are in a duo. We have done music together since 2012. And here's the thing. Like, I just feel...
We've seen it all.
Yeah.
We have seen the good, the bad, and the stuff that no one wants to talk about.
The deeply ugly.
But that's why you're here listening to us.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, we have not actually ever been in the public eye, right? We have not risen to any level of success or fame where we're even slightly a household name.
Nope.
However, and this is because we've been watching The Night Agent. And you said this earlier.
I did.
It is kind of like we are the Peter Sutherland of music.
Wow.
We are kind of in the shadows. We have to keep a low profile or not have to. We've been kind of forced to keep a low profile.
Which his character was forced to play. They like actually made fun of him in several of the episodes. They're like, what do you do at the bottom of the White House in the basement?
And
like he's not crucial or important.
We're kind of collecting this intel, this information. It's going to get passed up to the big dogs.
Exactly.
And we're not really going to get the credit for it. We're just on the ground floor, sort of doing the dirty work. And that probably feels a little kind of abstract to listen to. But as this episode goes on, you're going to understand that a whole lot more. The way that I mean that is really through how we have been perceived as artists and how we've been definitely perceived as women and people. Our dad said something really interesting earlier today. He said, you are not good enough in their eyes to publicly celebrate and lift up, but you are good enough for them to get your ideas off of. Ooh, okay.
That is my favorite word, dicey. We'll just put it across the screen with a dice going through.
Like a news.
Literally.
Dicey.
And just the other day, I was on a TikTok and someone used the word dicey.
Oh, no
And
way.
I replied back to her and I said, I've been saying this for years. And she was like, so have I. She's like, it's kind of weird. She's like, maybe we were separated.
I got to fix my stand. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to utilize this as an intro about us, but also this is going to kind of bleed into.
It like segues a little bit. So it
Yes.
feels like an intro, but it's not all about us. It's about the further topic. Yeah. I like that.
So the reason I say that is because we have been in the Nashville scene for 7.5 years. And on and off, though, in the Nashville area for like 15 years. I mean, it's been
exactly
a hot minute. We have experienced, and this is because we are not afraid to speak. It's because we are definitely not fearful of controversy.
We're also not fearful of what we lose in the process.
Yeah.
Some people can speak, but then they'll speak to a certain degree and then they stop speaking because of the consequences that people take against them.
We're not afraid to not be politically correct.
Yeah, I'm not afraid.
Because of that, we have addressed things in our career that a lot of people found very uncomfortable. And it's caused them to put us on the back burner, so to speak. And we say this a lot in kind of the privacy of our home, but it feels like a withholding of love and I guess public admiration.
Yep.
And you can sense it. It's not this, like I don't actually have data to give to you. It's a feeling. It's a sensation that when we share something or we post content, I can feel Nashville shrivel up and say like, I'm not going to help you anymore.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
As a believer,
we're like the only two people who get this. These people are going to watch it and they're going to be like, what are they talking about?
They're on a wavelength somewhere else. No, if you're a believer watching this, it's very biblical to talk about discernment. People talk about it as energy, whatever you want to shift it into. But discernment is a real thing. And I scored really high in discernment.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And I have used it everywhere, in every situation, in every room I've walked into. I can feel people's energies towards me. And I think it says a whole lot more about what's going on in their life than what's going on in my life.
Oh, absolutely. What's that
Everybody
saying?
wants to find a villain.
Is it, was it Denzel Washington that said, your character will basically, it'll like
excuse people from the table.
Yeah. It's like you walk into a room and if they feel something from you that you have either, and I'm not going to say the word mastered because have we ever really mastered some weakness, but you have really grown confident in this area. If they are insecure in that area, your security will just directly affect them. No matter the kindness you come at it with.
Exactly.
It's just, it's inferior feeling when they are addressed with something that they haven't worked on or they haven't even been willing to work on.
Pause. Someone's calling me. I'm sorry.
No worries.
I hate.
I'm
getting spam now. I'm going to turn my phone off.
So we're just trying to kind of give you an image that you can wrap your head around because obviously you're meeting us for the very first time. Most of you are at least. Mm-hmm. And I could not give you my whole life story right now because this would be a 4-day long podcast uninterrupted.
You wouldn't be eating.
No.
You wouldn't be drinking. You wouldn't be sleeping. And you would definitely be exhausted by the time we gave it to you.
But I want to just give enough that you can kind of sink your teeth into and say, okay, I kind of know who Revy is now. By the way, did we ever say our names?
Oh, I don't think we did. Okay. That's all right. That's totally
fine.
My
B. I'm Kirsten.
And I'm Courtney.
Our duo together. That's Revy.
And Revy. This is the Get in Line to Hate Me podcast, in case anyone got lost on that along the way.
Yeah.
Let's lay some of the groundwork.
I mean, yeah, exactly.
I could
go for it.
Could elaborate a little bit.
Well, okay. Before you do that, I want to piggyback off of what I just said.
Sure. Go
Giving
ahead.
you something to sink your teeth in. The concept, I guess, the overarching sort of principle that has happened here is that we were raised by our parents to be women of excellence in whatever category we were in. It did not matter if you were asking me to go build you a hamburger. I'm going to do it to my utmost.
Right.
I followed through with that concept in work, in career environments, in friendship environments.
Yep.
What then happened is when you raise the bar and you say, I'm going to be someone of substance, of integrity, you start to really notice the mediocrity around you, okay? And we, coming into this duo-ship, really started recognizing how mediocre the world is, yes, but the music industry is. And this podcast is not going to be just about music.
No,
but it's going to be a lot about music.
Yeah, absolutely, because our life is
we are
all encompassing around creativity. So we will pull from. It'll be music. It'll be stuff that I do with my career and the stuff I've faced. And then we can get into the nitty gritty about other things if that's what we want to do, because it's our podcast.
Exactly. And so because we recognize the mediocrity, and this is going to be the important thing, this is going to be like the underlined thing of this episode, we automatically made people mad at us.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable. I would even say they felt the guilt of being that themselves and then lashed out of that. That's the direction in which we're coming from for this podcast. I think that says it all, right? Because what we're going to do, and there are going to be episodes where it feels like we're just having a conversation. There are probably going to be episodes where it feels like it's a review, a critique, whatever.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to be beautiful about it.
Because we are going to talk about the truths and the facts that everyone else wants to slough off. They're like, I'm not going to get in the chicken coop about this because I'm going to lose followers. I'm going to lose friends. And we have. Okay. So if you want
we've put
our credentials.
We've put our money where our mouth
Yes.
is. When I said earlier that we don't have a fear of reprisals.
Fear of reprisals.
You always
So
have
sorry.
to do that.
I have to.
You have to every time. We're also big movie
That's
quoters.
my brain.
So if we get on a tangent with movie quoting, just go with it with us while we do it. I think you said all of that really, really well. And
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I honestly, you're like, let me brush this off my shoulder really quickly. I really believe that we are called to be saying all of this. And we never use that word and just carelessly
Lightly.
throw it around.
Yeah.
Not in our family. We don't. We are very grounded, very biblical people. And that is very important to us. We carry that with us like it's a spirit attached to who we are. And we're never going to forsake it for your vote or your popularity. It's just not who we are.
Right.
So there's a level of principle behind all of this too, that most of what
Like
we're talking about,
Backbone.
people don't want to get into because maybe they just don't have the integrity they think they have.
Oh, that's a mouthful.
And that hurts to say and to hear from
That-
people.
That does segue into pieces of who we are
Yeah.
that you're going to get to know along the way. But that definitely holds hands with the issues that we have had within the church. And when I say the church, I don't mean Christ's bride, right? The whole group of believers.
I'm not condemning the whole thing.
It's
not
the-
everyone in it.
It's the institutionalized
principle.
building that becomes a Sunday morning service and club versus when we speak about the church, the whole collective body of believers. We're referencing the building. We're referencing when we say the church hurt, when we say we've had issues within the church, we are referencing the business model
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
that the church has become. That's a little sneak peek into the future. But what you said was if you don't have the actual backbone that you speak of, it is why you will not do what we're doing. And it is why you are not willing for people to get in line to hate you, because you know at the end of the day that if you're in an argument, the other side will always win because you don't have footing. The thing about us is that our whole life has provided.
It's proof. It's the receipts.
Yeah, it's provided footing.
I didn't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to have some character and some integrity, and then I'm going to go out and make a popular vote out of it.
But even beyond that, you didn't wake up one day and
I
say,
really didn't even choose this either.
I'm going to be controversial.
No.
That has followed us.
I think I've always been controversial.
Exactly. And
I was controversial in 6th grade
yes,
when I turned down an opportunity that most 6th graders just don't do. And the whole school talked about me.
yeah.
That was pretty controversial to do.
So let's do that. Let's really make this the about us
I agree.
version.
I love
Obviously, we
that.
gave you a little bit of yummy food to digest. Let's chit chat about what got us started,
Yeah.
a little bit of our family back history.
That'll be fun.
Do you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
Uh,
Gives me a chance to drink, not alcohol. Gives me a chance to just shoot some vodka back here.
well, you can't have us and talk about us without the people that have come before us. So that would be our lovely parents. And they have the most integrity of people I've ever met. And maybe that sounds biased, but they really do. They really preach. They really walk the walk and talk the talk. They can say it all, and they've done it all and lived by it. Our parents are classically trained musicians, and
We always joke that our dad has always sounded like the older, more mature version of Josh Groban. And it's not a joke.
no, he really does.
He totally could have had a Josh Groban career. He absolutely could have. Had it not been for ...
Yeah.
Had it not been for what?
Mental illness.
Yes, which is a big part of our story.
I will say it's not even just the mental illness. When you talk about the whole of the issue, it's that society doesn't really prop up people with mental illness the way that they should to succeed. We've spent time propping up everyone else.
Yeah.
But then when it came to people that we didn't understand, we told them they'll somehow find their place in life. Like, it was never,
but like didn't give a leg up.
we were never, obviously for some reason, people in the church felt like they were never accountable for their own sins. So yeah, we're the daughters of brilliant people.
I think that going along with that, it's also a little bit less about propping up, and for some reason it's a little bit more about,
Maybe I didn't use the right word.
no, it's okay, you did.
I do have
I'm just
dyslexia.
I'm just expounding on it.
Yeah.
It's almost more like if you have a mental illness, society sort of just casts you in this collection of people that'll just figure it out. Does that make sense? Like, you're on your own, kid. You know, we see a lot of areas in life of sickness and illness and injury and, you know, disability even, where people will lift your heavy wings automatically. It's not even a question. It's just like, we have to be there as a community for these people. With mental illness, I have seen quite the opposite. I have seen the, honestly, you'll figure it out mentality. It's not like, how can I be there for you? It's more along the lines of, how far away can I get from you? And our family, unfortunately, just experienced sort of that to the nth degree. And it was never second nature for people in our life to be like, man, they're really going through it. How could we support the Rosemans? That's our last name.
It's an unfortunate part of our history.
Yeah. Had dad, and I'm going to say this, okay, get in line to hate me.
So sorry to be the one.
Had our dad had cancer, I absolutely believe that people would have been lined up around the buildings to make sure that our needs were met.
And I'm going to say that we probably wouldn't be sitting here with a podcast today. We would have had a whole different life. And we might have been, we might have been different people.
Absolutely.
And it might not have been for our advantage.
So I would say, unfortunately,
yeah, we are here today.
We have this as our backstory, because I do believe that we would not be who we are. And I absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, believe we would not write
100%. I will go to my grave saying that the things that I have like loathed about parts of our walk that we did not choose have been the thing that literally has made us as creative and as being able to be so vulnerable with our audience, no matter where we have gone.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, that we could talk about that for days, but we'll try to keep going forward.
Exactly. Because this isn't about us.
You have the history of mental illness. By the way, it's bipolar OCD that he was diagnosed with, just like fresh college kid.
Yeah.
And he actually had the sense, and I would say the Holy Spirit driving him to do something that was completely anti what everyone around him was saying. So his professors, mentors, friends, pastors were all saying, Glenn, if you believe in God enough and you have a big enough faith, then he will heal you of this. This is another entire can of worms that we could discuss. But it is an absolute miracle that he never even attempted taking his life.
Yeah.
Because his chemical imbalance was so off the charts. And that was noted later by his doctor when he had the sense and the Holy Spirit driving him to actually go get diagnosed himself. So he went against the grain on what everyone was saying to him. And he said, no, something really, truly is deeply wrong here.
He knew.
And he drove himself to a clinic. And he had a faith-based doctor who looked at him and said, you are a miracle. looking at your chart, you are a miracle.
You should just not even be alive today.
So, I mean, talk about backbone. In a way that kind of set the rest of our trajectory was the fact that we will go against the grain when we know that deep in our gut, we are supposed to. We are being called out for something else.
Yeah.
So you had that going on, and then our parents meet and they walk through all of the muck and mire that accompanies a mental health diagnosis, especially in the church.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have us. So we come out of this situation as their daughters. We have a sister in the middle of us, Caitlin. So you have the three of us girls who now sort of end up feeling like the mantle of this conversation rests on our shoulders. And I don't know if Caitlin feels fully all of that.
Katie's very different
but
than us.
it really, really weighed on Courtney and me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a pressure from our parents. I want to clear that up. They weren't like, hey, you got to talk about this.
No, I just remember
It
being
naturally
very early,
happens.
going to school and acknowledging my parents' struggle and being vulnerable in like 7th grade with people in my
young.
class. And I'm the kind of person, I'll say this about myself. I am the kind of woman, and I was the kind of little girl who could just put it all out there, which
Yeah.
means that you can get very, very hurt. We all know this about people who just put themselves out there. I had to eventually learn discretion of what to give parts of myself away to the world.
That's really good because not everybody deserves
And I
your
got
story.
really hurt by a lot of people by being vulnerable. But then I'd have a lot of people who would say to me, never change this about yourself. And that was particularly Mel's husband at SCAD, you know, and that just always resonated with me to this day. It's just those little things like that you think about in your down moments.
Yeah.
And you know, you kind of have the right personality, you know, like you don't need to shift and morph those things about yourself.
Just how you give your story.
But how you proceed to move through with life and your
Yeah.
grief and your story and how you give it to others
I think that we
is
learned,
super important.
I think we learned how to not divulge everything at once, especially when you meet people that you feel like a kindred connection with.
Because then you end up trauma bonding.
It's easy to really give
And
it
I didn't
away.
even know what that was until that came out years ago. And now I fully understand.
Yeah.
I've 100% made
Yes, we've
trauma
done
bonded
that.
friendships. With
Yeah. And
people.
then when the going gets tough,
they walk away.
yeah, exactly. You have not built a structure that's like sound in a friendship when you trauma bond. In my opinion,
You built trauma with them. And when there's no
Absolutely.
more trauma to bond to,
yeah.
they're gone. That's why they call it a trauma bond.
Yeah. So yeah, you have these three kids who are navigating what it looks like to have a dad with bipolar and OCD. And we are very blessed to have a very faithful father who has not only been faithful to his medication, his treatment, how he feeds his body, how he takes on the day,
Yeah.
but he has been faithful to his relationship with the Lord and his relationship with our mom. And I mean, those two have just been that has impacted us in ways I don't know if I have words to describe exactly. But you've got these kids now figuring out, well, what does it look like to be the daughters of this? Do I talk about it? Do I not talk about it? Interestingly enough, I don't think it ever came.
We never asked ourselves, do I talk about this?
I think we never said, I can't talk about this.
Never.
It was in my DNA that I remember being in first grade. If you want to talk about a memory that just sticks with you, I was in first grade. We had just moved to Melbourne, Florida, and it was for a job that was my dad was offered at a church to be the minister of music. Okay. The history with church, this is where it began, because he lost 12 jobs in 10 years, and almost every single one of them was in a church setting. And he was discriminatorily fired. This was not, oh, you didn't rise to the challenge.
Or Glenn came to work drunk. No.
This was all because we didn't want to discuss back then. And I say we, I say culture, we, society, church. They didn't want to discuss mental illness. They did not want to be impacted with something that was uncomfortable.
Nope.
So they got rid of him. We had just moved to Melbourne, Florida. My teacher walks in and she says, your mom and dad are on their way to come get you. I believe your dad was fired this morning. Okay, as a first grader, what are you, 7 years old in first grade?
Yeah, something
like that.
Don't ask me. I'm not the math person.
6 or 7 year old kid. I'm bawling in my first grade teacher's classroom because I knew what it was.
Yeah.
That's pretty profound for a child to know what that carries. It wasn't, I was sad that my dad got fired. I knew what was behind the door of why he got fired. And so you have us. This is in our DNA. We know it. We feel it. We talk about it. This led to music for me before it even hit Courtney and before we were ever even discussing being a duo. I think I was 8 years old and I walked into my parents' room and I said, I'm going to be a musician. That's what I'm going to do with my life. And I had at that point been writing poetry since at least seven, I think.
You used to read me all your poetry. She like vetted. I was her like audience.
Sounding board.
I was Kirsten's audience before there was an audience. I mean, our middle sister played sports and she did not engage with the same things that we did. And there is nothing wrong with that. No harm in the other sister being different than the rest.
Yeah.
All three of us were different. Ask my mom how different we all were.
Hold on, guys. And listen, this mic. We don't have what we need for this. That's okay. We are doing.
Is there anything new?
Yeah, right. My toothbrush broke this morning. So if you want to know how it's going. And it didn't break via the handle.
No, it's the bristles.
The bristles were coming out in my mouth. And I thought,
this is a sign.
This is not.
This isn't a sign.
Just an absolute beautiful metaphor for my life.
we were different. We were all different. And my point to that is Kirsten knew. She just knew. And I knew she knew. And this probably would have been where my discernment might have started earlier. I knew when you set your path, you were going to stay it.
Yeah.
You were the one person in the family who could have a concrete position. I always believed that.
I appreciate that.
Still to this day, you could go out and do anything that I can't do.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Besides my tailbone.
Yeah, but you really could. If you ever shifted course,
I could.
You'd be massively successful. And I sometimes I worry about that for myself.
You don't have to worry.
I know. Because I always have you.
I'm stuck with you. Yeah, I was writing.
She'd feel guilty if she just dropped me off the side of the road somewhere.
Writing poetry at 7. The first song was at 7. I sang in front of my first crowd at 8.
And I gotta fix mine too. Just give
I'm
me
telling you. I'm telling you. Listen to the creaks.
It's kind of like my knees.
And the crowd wasn't small. It was a good size. I think that was 200 people out in the audience. Yeah. And it was a song that I wrote called Broken Wings.
I remember that
I
one.
still remember it had a key change in it. You want to talk about being...
You were adventurous.
I was ready to go. 8 years old. And I'm like, David Foster, where you at? Speaking of David Foster.
Where you at? He really needs to get on Revy.
You want to talk about like a dream collaboration. David is up there.
We have had that for years.
For sure.
We talked about that at the dining room table for years.
I remember it was like, Lord, you heal my broken wings. And then you set me free so I can fly away.
Away.
Was it away?
I think it was
okay.
Away. I would know your lyrics.
And I remember the day after I performed that song, there was the sound technician had left the system on. And I went back into an empty room in the church and I sang through the microphone. I don't remember what I sang, but I remember having a very distinct feeling between me and God that day where I was just like, this is what I want to do. I want to impact people with my music. I think it was so much less about, I want to sing on a state-of-the-art sound system. It had everything to do with the fact that I knew that when I sang that song earlier that morning and people were talking to me afterwards, grown-ups talking to an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
And I'm having a conversation back with them. I understand what they're talking about. I'm feeling what they're feeling or had felt. And that was what hit me. That was, I really want to do this the rest of my life. And so I did. I paved a path through adolescence, through high school, all of it, knowing that's what I wanted to do. And I sang at every opportunity I possibly could find.
Boy, did you.
So much so that it was an honor to be voted by my peers in my senior superlative as best performer senior year. And my co-winner was a hip hop dancer. So for them to see that in me in a whole different field of art was really, really, really encouraging. And I kind of came out of that momentum, and then I recorded a full-length inspirational crossover worship album
Very like
at 19.
very like the career path that Switchfoot decided to take.
Yeah.
It really reminded me of that.
Full length, all originals, and I was sold. What was really interesting is I really believed in my art by myself, and I still do. But at that point in time, you could have never said to me, like, do you want a different style of career? Do you want to be in a band? No. Do you want to be in a trio, duo, whatever? I was really sold on a solo artist career. And then Courtney pops into the picture.
And I have
What's bizarre,
just a story.
she pops in a way you could absolutely never expect or
Never
plan for. So now we're on Courtney's side of the fence.
All right, so me.
And it's a dramatic side.
yeah,
Welcome to Theater 101 with
I'm
Courtney.
sorry. I bring the drama, and I make no apologies for that.
As
Only
you should.
in a good way. Have I learned to bring drama? Me?
It used to be not in a good
it
way.
used to be a bad way. Listen, I will own my faults for the rest of the world if that's what they want, because I got plenty of them. In case you think I don't have any, I've got a lot of them. For me, I always knew I'd be good at a lot of different things. I can genuinely say that. And this one can genuinely say back to everyone listening that is so true.
Oh, yeah. She told me one day she came in from her teacher. What grade were you? 8th? 7th? Her teacher walked in and asked what everybody wanted to do. It was like career day. And Courtney said, what'd you say, Courtney?
I want to be a triple threat.
And you are. In fact, I would
Now
say
I'm more than that.
You're like a quintuple
Yeah,
threat.
it's true.
Is that a word? Quintuple?
At the time I wanted to do theater, I knew from a very early age that I was gifted on the side of movies. And
Real quick, I want to like pat her on the back without her patting herself on the back.
That's sweet.
This girl can write the hell out of a song. She is a melody queen. I would be nowhere in my career without her melodies. She is an excellent model. You have an incredible voice.
Thanks.
She can act. She has wicked style. I mean, we're at 6 now. Anything else?
I'm an amazing cook.
Oh, her cooking skills. She just throws garlic and butter into a pan, and I'm like, what in the 4-star restaurant is going on in here?
Ooh, our makeshift quality.
I'm telling you, listen.
You want to donate for better?
You guys want the hold on. You guys want the inside scoop? Ha, scoop. There is a cat litter bag holding this stand up.
Is this actively falling?
No, I don't think so.
I was watching it actively fall.
No, you're good.
It's falling.
Well, it's this.
That's fine.
You can just
welcome to WKBN of the Channel Network.
you can just stabilize it over time.
Yeah,
We have a cat litter bag holding this up. Okay, so that's just how professional this is.
that's amazing.
It's state of the art.
That's incredible. Okay, back to not to say back to me.
Yes, but back to Courtney.
I always knew a little portion of what I wanted to do. It's not fair for me to get on here and say I knew what exactly I was going to end up. I always knew where Kirsten was going to end up. I just had no idea that was going to involve me. In fact, to say purely and honestly, I wanted nothing to do with the side that she was involved in. We had a lot of competition between us. And I hate admitting that, but we would just be lying to everyone if we said
absolutely
that we had to really learn to honor our differences and our similarities, because we hated what we hated in ourselves.
Let's say this. The sibling rivalry
It was there.
was amplified like turn it up to 11. I mean, it was
past 11.
It was no longer a just normal sisters who don't get along. It got to a very, very toxic environment in which, and we'll get to that in the future, but like we called it quits. We've called it quits on music a couple times now because we knew that our relationship as sisters was way more valuable than any music career will ever be. And we knew we had to sort through some serious, deeply earthed issues in ourselves and in each other.
So for me, I always joke with people, but I mean this when I say this. I knew I wanted to do theater. I knew I wanted to do acting. God had placed all of that inside of me. It was very, very clear. I remember watching Music Man when I was younger, turned around the living room, and I said to my parents, that's what I would like to do. My mother knew that about me too, because they knew I could learn lines in an instant. I had a memory like that, and I still do. It's my greatest asset when it comes to some of that
yes,
stuff.
I can name a movie to Courtney, and I will be like, okay, in this scene, and then go.
And I can pull the bullshit from it. Like, I can pull the stuff that's so irrelevant. They're like, why is she thinking that they're wearing a plaid jacket and remembers it?
What was it the other day you were doing? And I was like, good grief. You had it like down to a T.
I don't remember, but I'm oddly good at accents.
Was it She's the Man?
It might have been. It might have been. Welcome to Illyria.
Have a sit. Have a sit.
Have a sit in the headmaster's chair. No, you don't. You have male pattern baldness.
Male baldness pattern.
The point of all of that is, like, she knew what she wanted in that category. I knew what I wanted in different categories.
And let me interrupt.
They ran thick. Like,
exactly.
It was muddy. It was a bit of a muddy situation to be in at such a young age.
It wasn't music though for her.
No. Like, even though I came from a musical family.
Yes. And she did music. Like, we sang together all through growing up.
And I loved that. But I think I loved that for the performance aspect.
The stage part.
I wanted to be on stage. I am not going to lie to people and say I wasn't the little girl who wanted those things.
Courtney would have never looked at me and said,
the art of being a musician was not a desire.
You would have never looked at me and said, I want to do what you're doing. And she didn't want to learn an instrument. That was very, very clear.
Still is.
So while she's doing all of that and I'm doing all of this, we're not running a race that's going towards each other, or so we thought.
No, it was going away from each other. But what I always thought in my head is we'd keep our lives separate, but our sistership would just be like an associate, like we were. This is so bad, but growing up, I thought I was just associated with Kirsten, and that is heavy territory because I'm the baby, and the babies, depending on what family you grow up in, the babies get a lot of flack because the babies have to watch the older people succeed. And then if they don't meet that level in a really triumphant family, they kind of look like a big failure with a lot of weight.
Maybe even like a mooch. You just kind of
like I slouched to get where I am today.
And you didn't.
No.
But you know what is really actually cool looking back at how we did start, because
we were our own people.
You were so
adamant.
Yes. About so much so that she got lead roles. You were Jasmine in Aladdin.
I played in The Music Man.
Marian the librarian.
The one musical I watched that I wanted to play in, I went to play in when we moved to Lebanon, Tennessee, which is kind of crazy to me to this day. That started my love for musical theater.
Yeah.
Was Big a Little, Talk a Little, Big a Little. I remember watching it, everything.
Talk a lot, Big a Little more.
Kirsten and I came together in a very organic way, but God was always, he was orchestrating everything that would push us together. And even now, looking at what I've fallen into these last few years, all of what I did when I was younger was
It's come
not
through.
a waste.
It's not.
And I always knew, what did I say to you
So
when we lived in the RV? What did I say to you? I said, just because I'm not acting now doesn't mean I won't be acting when I'm older.
Absolutely.
I'm a late bloomer.
So to fast forward through, adolescence, high school, all of that. Let's get to the part where we join forces, and then we'll, I think, end the episode, because I think that's a really good, just like nice cutting point.
Agreed.
I am 4 years older than Courtney. So another part of our story is that we sold everything we owned in Lebanon, Tennessee, and we bought a fifth wheel RV, and we were in the RV for 3 years. I was not in the RV full time. I actually skirted out around a year in, probably. There are a lot of tiny little pieces that make up a very big puzzle in that time frame. But to kind of, and we can always make an episode about all of this in like full detail.
It would be fun
but
for
to just
everyone.
kind of like throw the bait in the water and catch a fish with you guys. We were in South Florida. We had met a family who had offered for us to park our RV on their lot. Their oldest son was a producer, still is a very good producer. And we kind of befriended him. Didn't really know where that would lead. We were just friends. I move out about a year, like I said, into the process, because I wanted to stay in this South Florida area when they wanted to leave. Our family wanted to leave. I stayed behind. My parents said, if you can get a job and a place to live, you can stay. And I did. It was absolutely crazy. Looking back, would I do it again? I'm not entirely sure, but I also wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
Because it led
It's really
me
hard to answer that.
exactly to where it needed to be. But I got a job at a church as a worship leader intern.
Why do we do this to ourselves?
I was supposed to intern for a year, but they, I guess, saw my strengths and my potential, and the interim pastor left and they put me in charge full time. Now, the warning on this is the fact that my pay didn't change when they put me into a full-time position, and I absolutely should have argued for myself there, but I didn't. I'm young. I had just turned 21, middle of this internship. I am leading a 6 to 8 piece member band.
I witnessed all of this
by myself. I am making the chord charts. I'm printing the sheets. I'm leading the rehearsals. I'm leading the Sunday morning services.
She was a gangster.
There was a crap ton on my shoulders. While this is going on, I find out that I have another issue with my tailbone. I'm going to rewind just a little bit. I was 16 years old in 2006, I think. At 2006, I was having a lot of pain in my tailbone, but I had not fallen. I had not bruised it. I had not bumped into anything. I go to my physician. He says I am inflamed from growing. All right. This was malpractice at its best, because it was, in fact, a pilonidal cyst. And if you don't know what those are, go ahead, just do a little Google, figure it out. I'm not going to tell you. It's a cyst basically on the base of your tailbone, and it is pretty invasive if left untreated. All right. And you can guess. Mine was left untreated.
Yeah, for so many years, because
so
you trusted your physician.
I trusted my physician, and it didn't go away. And then for 3 years,
it grew.
And so by the time I graduated high school, I was in so much pain. I woke up one day, I couldn't move, I couldn't stand, I couldn't lay. I could quite literally breathe and scream. And my mom took me to the ER, and my doctor said, you have to go into surgery. Like, this is really, really extensive. It was so extensive that I had 2 surgeries in 2 days. By the time all was said and done, my 6'5" doctor, who had a previous football career, could place his entire open hand
inside of her wound,
in the wound that was left on my backside. So, not me thinking I was fully healed, doing just fine. And then while I'm in this internship in South Florida, I find out it is back. And at this point, it would have come back the
The sixth time.
no. This would have been the fourth time.
Fourth.
So after those 2 surgeries that I had, it came
Jeez.
back. I had a third. They couldn't get my wound to heal, so I had a 4th surgery. So that puts us at 4, and then I had one more before I hit the road. And I don't remember what it was. I think it had come back again.
It wasn't as
So
invasive,
before-
I remember.
Exactly. Before I got to Orlando, I had 5 surgeries under my belt. So I'm thinking I'm good and done. It comes back. I get a new doctor in the Orlando area. He was an amazing doctor. I am very, very, very thankful for him. And he actually shed light on my situation that no doctor had done previous to this. And so I find out I have to have another surgery. I go under the knife. I go through all of that. I call my parents before I go into surgery and I say, I'm going to need somebody to take care of me, basically, because the recovery is immense. Not only are you, hang on, pause for dramatic effect.
I love this.
Not only am I just doped up on Oxy to survive the pain, but I have to have a live-in nurse, or not a live-in nurse, but a nurse that's going to come once every other day to make sure I'm healing, to make sure everything is on track. And that process is just, I used to joke, I do feel slightly prepared for childbirth because it was the most excruciating pain I
think she is.
have yet to experience. And I don't say that lightly. But it was just tremendously awful. So I get off the phone with my parents to prepare for all of this. And Courtney volunteers to be flown down to take care of me in between the nurse visits. That's just getting food to me, making sure like I don't sleep too long, because you could sleep on this medication for hours and hours and hours. So that was the kickoff that we had no idea was coming. But I joke she could absolutely be a nurse if she ever wanted to be, because she handled my situation like a pro. And then one night, I'm finally recovering. I'm not on the medication anymore. I can drive again. All of this.
That whole night, that is burned into my brain.
It's forever.
The whole thing of why I feel compelled and called to stay the road.
Yeah.
Is because I knew it was a light moment from God, like no other.
We were just in the room sitting. I was playing guitar. I was playing the chords to For the First Time by The Script.
Which, can I just say,
what a timely song.
Now that is such a timely song for the culture we live in.
Oh man.
I thought it was timely then. It kind of broke my heart then when I listened to the song, but we listened to it like a couple months ago, and I almost had tears in my eyes because I was
100%.
like, that's the song we chose to sing together.
Yeah.
Just vaguely. We
Yeah.
popped this out.
Yeah, and if you go look at the lyrics of that song,
It's going to make a lot of sense.
it just, how that was the first song we ever sang together is beyond me, besides the fact that like God has had a hand on our career
all the way through.
from the get-go. So we're sitting on the bed, I'm playing, I start singing, and she hits the harmony. Now, at this point in time, we hadn't sung together in a while, probably like a year, I'm
Yeah.
going to guess.
It had
Because we
been-
would sing together in the RV
We
a
sang
little
in the
bit.
RV. We did stuff on YouTube
Just
and
Back and forth, cute
but
things.
we always sang for fun
For
and
fun.
because we wanted to.
Yeah. So she hit the harmony, and the moment she hit the harmony, the whole room shifted, because we'd sung together before, but nothing had ever affected me. And I don't say that like you're not good.
No,
But
I know.
nothing
I
had
know what you mean.
Ever pinged my soul.
It just was that we came from so much talent that I think that you kind of
We just-
absorb that.
It was
And
there.
you're like, oh yeah, the Rosens are talented or blah, 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 blah. But this was so different.
Yeah.
I was blossoming. I was finding parts of my voice. Who knew I'd begin to find it even more.
And she just melted into the chorus. And
That's
so
the word I would use.
we stopped, we looked at each other, and we were like, and in a way, we didn't even acknowledge what
No.
it could mean. We just were like, oh, hang on.
I don't even think I said anything.
We were like, that was really cool. And then we were in a pickle because I was not working. I couldn't work. So I'm struggling to make ends meet. And thankfully, I was given like a leave pay that helped offset some stuff.
That was probably the only saving grace.
But we were like hardly eating. Thankfully, we were in a situation where we were renting a room and it was not very expensive at all. But we looked at each other.
They did sometimes feed us.
And we looked at each other and we said, what if we use this newfound thing here and we go street perform
For our groceries.
and we'll just take that money that we make in tips and we'll go get groceries. And we did. And in the process of that, of learning like, I don't know, 40 or 50 songs to just sing on the street corner, we would get asked like, where's your YouTube channel, or do you guys have any music out and how do we find you and all this stuff? And this was a means to an end at that point. But we started kind of thinking, maybe it's not. Maybe this is so much more than just us standing on a corner singing.
Yeah.
And so we figured out a name. We built a YouTube and a Facebook page, and we just launched in. And let me just tell you what, that was 12 and a half years ago.
What a naive decision I made.
What? Yeah, I mean, we're naive. We had no idea what was.
I mean, when I look back, I had no idea that being in a duo would push me. Excuse me, I have to sneeze. Hold on.
Should I just leave all of that on there?
Really been going through it with the
Yeah,
sneezing.
you have. We're getting over colds, if you can't tell.
I had no idea that learning to hone and craft with another human being would bring out the worst sides of us, the best sides of us, and then anything and everything between. I actually don't think that I would personally have taken so much accountability for who I've wanted to become if we hadn't done this together, because no one would have ever forced me to look at the competitive side.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Why was that even a part of the equation?
Right.
Why did we feel that way about ourselves or me individually? So it's changed my whole life to be a part of Revy.
And ever since then, it's been, and I truly mean this, not an a woe is me mentality. It has been an uphill battle. It has been truly one thing after another. Our running phrase with each other is it's more for the autobiography.
And I think we're going to have to do something with that one day.
Like one day we're going to be in interviews and they're going to be like,
so tell me about
what happened here? And we like,
do you have
how long
97
do you
hours?
have? But the truth is that, yes, like you said, Court, it brought out the worst and it brought out the best simultaneously.
It really did.
In us. And it took us all over the map, from Orlando, Florida, where it began, up to Savannah, Georgia, where we were for 5 years. And we honed most of what we have now began there.
It absolutely did.
We were doing
15 shows a month.
Yeah, 13 to 15 shows a month.
There was years it paid our full
at least
bills.
3 years.
And I look back and I wish for those years sometimes. 'Cause I'm like,
we knew we had money coming in.
I knew where my money was coming from.
Yes.
I didn't have MCAS.
While we were there, we had an incredible run, and then we got blackballed.
Oh my gosh.
And lost all those contacts and had to rebuild brand new contacts in the same city, which Savannah's not big. Okay.
It's not like Nashville.
So we had to dig. We had to dig for new venues, new relationships with venue owners.
We ended up finding those on Tybee Island.
We absolutely
and
did.
They ended up being honorable and great to us.
I
Till we
talked
moved
to her
away.
just the other
I
day.
know, and I miss them. I miss those days with those crab tacos.
Those
I can't
tacos.
have them anymore.
No.
So I have to
And
dwell
the nachos.
on the past.
No, the nachos.
Oh, those nachos alone.
So, and then Savannah led us back to the Nashville area, and I don't regret any of it, but Nashville has probably been the hardest place I've ever lived.
Ever tried to survive in a city? It's weird because when I came back to Nashville, quickly it became clear to me we were supposed to be here.
Yeah.
But then I knew that there was this other side that didn't want us here.
Yeah. It's been
And it could have been from the years we lived in Lebanon because they didn't want us there.
it's just it is a force of opposition that I don't think I've ever really truly faced. And now the podcast has come full circle to right where we began, which is that we have recognized our purpose in this city, and it is to make great music, and we will
make great art, matter again.
But it is also to call bullshit on some things and to, not be afraid of the fallout. And I'm not afraid of the fallout. And I think it's to pull back the curtain on societal pull back the curtain on societal constructs.
Yeah.
Right? And mindsets and things that we do that I just don't think should be elevated and should get a crown. And they do. And so, thus concludes
the Get in Line to
our
Hate
first
Me
episode
podcast.
I'm so sorry. Was it a day? Because it feels like tomorrow. You can check us out on all platforms just to keep this in mind.
Yeah.
YouTube, we're building up, but we are on Instagram and we are on TikTok. Everything is linked in this video, and it's annoying, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing about it, but clicking that notification bell is the way to be alerted that we have put something new up. And it's not only going to be this podcast, but we are releasing our entire songwriting catalog, one live take session at a time, until we have all of them up there. Right now, I think there are 16 songs.
That is 12 years of music that you're going to be getting. So
for free, mind you. It's our way of boycotting the streaming industry, which is a very dirty, greedy world. And it's our chance to do something that we can actually afford to do. Because I don't know if you know. Hey, hang on. Love doing this in the middle of the podcast. If you don't know, it is insanely expensive to release music. Yeah. And it's insanely expensive if you do it on the small scale. It will absolutely break your bank if you do it in a way that feels even close to the industry standard.
I agree.
So YouTube, it is. This is going to be your home plate for everything that we do.
Exactly. And we
Tune
can't
in
wait
for the next episode of the Get in Line to Hate Me podcast.